Here we go. Welcome to this sacred conversation. And I'm Chantal from Unfold Your Freedom. And I'm really delighted to be bringing Teena Ryan to you, who is an intuition coach. I only just recently met Teena, but something about her just caught my eye, appealed to me. There was an energy. It's like that intuition worked on us. And I said, without really knowing why, what, how, would you come on in a conversation? She went, yes, and here she is. So before I really go into it, we go into it, I'd actually like, Teena, for you to start sharing who you are, because it's about toxic relationships with self, others, how it affects your workplace, families. The inner Karen comes out. So I'm sort of giving everyone an idea. This is where we're going to be going. And
Sure.
Then we're going to see what happens. So Teena, welcome.
Thank you for having me this morning. It's a pleasure to have a chat with you. And yeah, like you said, when we met, it was only last week, feels like a little while ago, actually. It was just one of those things. I think we were trying to duke it out over door prizes as to who was going to win.
That's right. And we knew we couldn't share it because it was a candle, wasn't it?
It was. We couldn't slice it in half, unfortunately. And our love for out of the box glasses, I think, is the other thing that we connected over, because our lovely friend Tracy had a display of glasses. But yeah, as you were saying, yeah, toxicity in relationships, whether that be relationship to self or romantic relationships, business relationships, familial relationships, is the space I like to play in. I love to see a lot of the women, I think, that come through tend to be these really strong and independent, and they've got it all together. And the minute they walk into those relationship spaces, their boundaries become like cooked spaghetti, and there's no foundation, there's no solidity to it. Yet, if they're having conversations with other people, they come across as supremely confident, and they know their stuff, and they've got their stuff together. And I think that's, for me, that was the face that I put on to everybody during my 17-year marriage, was got it all together, and I'm strong, and I can run a business, and I'm raising 2 children, and I'm keeping a beautiful house, and I've got all the stuff. But I was miserable. I was so utterly miserable in my space because, unfortunately, I hadn't done the healing for my own childhood traumas. And my ex-husband thought that when you finished university, your schooling days were done. So there was no further learning. And after I had had my second son, for me, it was just like this, I'm raising 2 beautiful boys. I need to be my best for them, but I also need to learn more and know more and do more so that I can raise emotionally intelligent, well-balanced, well-rounded young men that I would desire to know, and know that when I gladfully handed them on to somebody else so they could start their own romantic relationships, that I wasn't handing over somebody that couldn't cook, couldn't clean, couldn't take care of himself, that wasn't a well-rounded human. So for me, that was the basis of all of my, I suppose, life learning, in terms of, well, my husband doesn't treat me like my girlfriend's husbands do. He will walk in the door and he's always aggressive and he's always angry. Don't get me wrong, during that time there was lots of good, but it wasn't a consistency. It was that Catholic ingrained in me, or you've got to stay because it's for better or worse. But where do you draw the line at worse? For the example I was given was put up, shut up, and just deal with it. Smooth it under the carpet, pat it all down, make it look beautiful, bury the bodies, and just, it was all the little things. I think what it ends up looking like is these tiny little Lego bricks of every time you don't address something in your relationship, pisses you off. He leaves the dish on top of the dishwasher and actually not in the dishwasher, or there's empty beer bottles on the sink, or he couldn't put on a load of laundry to save himself, or he thought looking after his own children was babysitting. They're the sort of things that just build these tiny little Lego blocks. And if you don't address them over time, they just end up building a wall where there's zero communication in the end, and you go, well, I want something that's really different, and you're not prepared to provide it. So there's no bridge between the two.
Yes.
So for me, that's the space I love to play in, because I love to help women who think that their potential is here, see that their potential is actually way above where they think, and by helping them get out of their heads and stop acting like a Mr. Potato Head, with their feet under here, to actually tune in to what their body's telling them, and to stop ignoring those gut feelings or heart feelings or all over body feeling, to go, I'm in a good space or I'm not in a good space, because my head says, and on paper it says, he's perfect, or this job is perfect, or they're my family because they're my blood. Well, I'm really sorry, but that doesn't equate to treating people poorly because they haven't done the work.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I think you made a really good point. Until you do your own work, you're going to keep allowing that to happen. And I got a vision of not only Legos, but dominoes. They all go down until there's just nothing left, like you said. And then you're in this empty pool, but you actually don't know how to get out. Where do I go from here?
Where's the step ladder to reach the side of the pool and to climb out? And I think my journey in that was about 8 years of learning just little bit by little bit, and adding things in like meditation, and taking time for yourself is not selfish. You cannot pour from an empty vessel, and when you're trying to pour from the negative, it is of no, your body gets sick, you break down. For me, I had a couple of battles with pneumonia because I had been desperately trying to sort of keep my family together, when in actual fact it was obvious that it wasn't going to work. We were playing from different playbooks, essentially, and how he wanted to raise our children and how I wanted to raise our children, and the examples that they were being shown of what a loving relationship looked like, or what a loving family looked, like an extended multi-generational family looked like. For me, it was just like, no, that's not okay. And I'm so thrilled and grateful. My son came to me a couple of weeks ago, youngest one, who isn't quite 15 yet, and said, oh, Mum, I'm really glad you left Dad. And I was like, oh, okay. And I said to him, tell me a little bit more. He said, well, I don't think we would have the relationship that we have. I don't think I would have the relationship with Tom. And he said, even though my relationship with Dad isn't good, it's on a better playing field than what it ever would have been. He said, because he said, I think if we all had stayed together, we would have been miserable.
Oh, I just thank you. I'm just going to take that into my heart.
Yeah, and that's emotional intelligence that you can only hope to have in a 14-year-old boy, for him to see that, to be able to have sort of like that sliding door moment and look between what the two lives would have looked like, because there was always this, you tore our family apart, and three people are not a family, and I don't know what it's like to come from a set of divorced parents, because that's not my reality. It's their reality. And I know they hate going backwards and forwards between two houses. And I said, well, unfortunately, this is the scenario we're in. I said, if you want to choose differently, if you want to go and choose and live with your dad full time, or if you want to choose and live with me full time, they're the options available to you if you don't want to keep picking your kid up all the time. I said, yes, it'll absolutely hurt if that's the choice that you make, but you've got to choose what is best for you.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm hearing so much. I mean, gosh, I've been making notes because I need to sometimes make that it's not okay. So number one, it's not okay. I heard you say it's about, you need to do your own healing. But I love the fact that you shared it takes years, like 8 years. So anyone who's watching this, it doesn't happen overnight, but you do need to take that first step. And the other thing I think you're saying, it's like you didn't know, but to have your son come back all this time later, you took a risk.
Yeah, I did.
You stepped into the unknown, not only with yourself or for yourself, but also for your boys.
Yes, exactly.
And then this happened. And the other thing that came to mind was even though there's a lot of divorced people around the world now, but we still see the happy family in images and marketing and advertising. So we have these two completely different things happening right now, when families at the moment, there's so many separate families, aren't there? So what I'm loving hearing is that is how you were able to finally, you held space for yourself, knowing, or somewhere, I think coming back to intuition, something must have guided you somewhere, do you think, even though you didn't get it perhaps at the time?
I think it was more that it was being, you know, and it was little bit by little bit. I think from when my second son was born, my husband at the time, he was like a week old. We were going for lunch with at his parents' house. Completely wrote himself off in the morning. Like all of his own trauma had literally been risen to the surface because our second son had been born. And he was aggressive and he was angry, and I didn't want this baby. My babies are IVF babies. They didn't come from having a lovely Saturday night dinner and a couple of glasses of wine. I wish they had of. They came with a great deal of needles and medical intervention and the highs and lows of, you know, your hormones being pumped up and down, up and down, up and down. But for someone to turn around and say, well, this isn't what I wanted, it's like you could imagine a woman that has just come into, you know, being able to feed her child, emotion, you know, like her emotional levels are off the Richter, and to have her then husband say, it's not what I wanted. And he's screaming. He's so overwhelmed and he's screaming. And I've got two little babies in the back of the car. And I just went, could you have not said something like 12 months ago before we started?
Yeah.
You know, if this wasn't what you wanted, but I think the problem was it was what he wanted, but because of all his own trauma, it was just literally like he had lit up like a jukebox of all his buttons being pressed at once. And just, you know, but he wasn't willing to look. He wasn't willing to look at all the challenges and the issues. And the more I worked on myself, the more he kept trying to drag me back with the, you can't do that, and you're not good enough to do that, and you're only good enough to raise my children and run my household and run a multi-million-dollar business, but you're not good enough to go out and seek employment on your own, or, you know. And he was absolutely baffled when I went, we're done, dude, we're finished. But no one's ever going to be able to tell you when you reach your shit tolerance level. No one will ever be, you know, I remember distinctly having the conversations with my girlfriend, when am I going to get there? No one's going to know. And for me, it was literally, I didn't speak. Like, it literally was my intuition came up from my gut and straight out my mouth and went, we're done. I don't even recall thinking the words. It just literally came out, and that was it. But the intuition bit was where she was waking me up in the middle of the night and going, you're in the wrong spot. And I had a very distinct lucid dream. I'd laid down for an afternoon nap and was in this house, and it's pouring with rain, and someone comes out the door and says, hey babe, would you like a cup of tea? And I turn around to look at the gentleman, and I'm like, you're not my husband. And I got up from this nap and I walked outside to see my husband working in the garage and going, you're the wrong person for me. It was just literally, it was an all over body feeling. But intuition got to be to the point where she was like, you know, the 5-year-old in the supermarket who's laying down on the floor and the arms and the legs are going, you know, because she can't get the chocolate or the lolly or whatever it was that she saw that, you know, piqued her interest, and mum said no. That's what mine was like. She was just getting more aggressive and more like, wrong. And I'm going, but I can't. And it's like, no, wrong. Until the point where I was like, yeah, okay, we're done. I can't do this anymore. And it's very hard, I think, for parents of, you know, that were born in sort of like that 40s generation, because in their timeline, when they would have been my age, they left a relationship with somebody else. You know, it was always like, oh, I met Johnny's one of the dads at school, and, you know, we got to talking and we've had an affair and now I'm leaving. What they couldn't understand was me leaving for me. I wasn't looking for another man. I wasn't all of a sudden turned lesbian and decided that I wanted a girlfriend. It was just me leaving for me. And the one point that I had said to my boys that I would prefer to be lonely and alone rather than lonely and in a relationship. I don't think anybody should ever have to traverse a space where they're in a relationship and they're sleeping next to somebody and feeling like they're all alone.
In fact, as you said, you're more alone in the relationship and in the home than when you're not. So I just thank you. I can't thank you enough, because I'm watching different people around me, close to me as well, who will stay. Now, they've made a decision to stay and they're clear as to why, and they know they're unhappy, but they can't, for them, again, I know it's their life journey, but sometimes I look at them, because I'm happily in a partnership after 16 years. So I'm hearing you, and I think, why would we put ourselves, because I've been put up myself through things too, like you're saying, we do.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, why would you keep putting yourself through that? Like you said, you know.
I think there's a level of comfort in what you know, right?
Yes,
and not a lot of women, and particularly women who are in their mid to late 40s or middle 50s, women in that space, the thought, you know, and a majority of women who do leave relationships at that time and space end up with nothing.
That's it.
So they go, you know, the fear of being without money, without resources, without the ability to take care of themselves often leaves them in relationships that they know they shouldn't be in, but the fear of trying to financially support themselves when they possibly haven't been in the workspace for 30 plus years because they've been raising kids and they've been volunteering and they've been doing all of those sorts of things. It's not a great space to try and be in. And I think that's why women would tend to stay, because as much as the romantic side of their relationship may no longer exist, they have a roof over their head, they have food on the table, they've got money in their bank account. You know, it's almost like I can put up with all of his crap, you know, or all of her crap, depending on gender, to know that security is you know, because it's such a primal instinct for people to know that they are financially secure, that they don't have to worry about those sorts of things. And the thought, I think, for some women to, you know, the rental market, I think all over the world, you know, particularly here in Perth, it's a horrible place to try and play in when you're a single, you know, when you're a single person or a single parent.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I think the other thing that came to mind as well is status, you know, because and I met my partner, I'm nearly 60, so I'm sharing, because I'm nearly 60 in January. And I met my partner 16 years ago. Oh, no, 17 years ago coming up. And why I'm sharing that with you is I can remember, because I loved being on my own. I didn't have a problem being on my own for various reasons. That was fine. So he came as a delight. But I remember the subtle shift of people towards me from being a single woman who was comfortable in her own skin to being partnered. Suddenly I was no longer the threat, you know, I no longer all these things. So I think there's status. And then I had a status. I had a partner. I remember looking at it and going, we have chosen not to marry, which I'm fine with, because I would never have taken on his name anyhow. So that's fine. Yeah. But I remember thinking, I've still got the same name. I'm still the same person, woman. Why is it now suddenly I've got this status?
Yeah, but they're more comfortable. And I found it was exactly the same for me when I was known as the single mama at school. I had a lot of the mamas look at me when, you know, like when their husbands would come and do pickup, or they'd come with their husbands to do pickup, and I'd have conversations with them and, you know, get that evil eye, or you wouldn't get invited, or that sort of, you know, to social gatherings and stuff. And I'm like, I'm having a conversation with your husband because A, I genuinely think he's a decent human, and B, I just got rid of one.
Right.
I don't want another. I don't want yours. Right. If you've got challenges and problems in your relationship, that's for you to solve.
Yeah.
And your issue and your problem. And that was, I suppose, for me, why I turned to, like, after nearly 2 years by myself and doing lots of work, lots of tears, lots of scotch, lots of journaling, lots of yoga, beach walks, you name it. Just trying to find myself again after being a 24/7 parent and not knowing who I was, you know, because the labels had been stripped from me, you know, so all my labels had been stripped from me because I was all of a sudden I wasn't someone's daughter because my parents decided that my ex-husband was the victim and needed their support. I was no longer somebody's wife. I was all of a sudden a divorcee, you know, and that came with its own shame and, you know, challenges and that sort of thing. So it took a long time to find me. I'm still finding me, you know. It's an evolution and a constant journey. But I went to online dating because I thought, well, I need to find a new circle of people to spend time with, and the money that I invest in it is like cost of a couple of really nice dinners out. So I did a speed dating week. Like, I've been on there for probably 7 weeks and going, something wrong with me. Nobody wants to take me out. And then I had this, it just sort of all clinked into place. And the third date, I met my partner, who I've now had for 4 years.
Wonderful.
And he is radically a 180 from my ex-husband. But I think a lot of that was my boys and I sat down and wrote a manifestations of the type of person that we wanted. So we wrote all the things about him, and I just tucked it in the book and packed it away. And it wasn't until I was moving that it popped out, and I went, oh, tick, 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 tick. You know, so I think there was about 98% of it was right. There was only a couple of things that weren't, you know, like I think it was the type of motorbike that he rode.
Well, that's important.
It was important to them.
Yeah, that's right.
But, you know, like, he ticked everything on the list. And we're the same. We don't live together. Not that we wouldn't want to, but logistically for us it doesn't work at the moment. But he's my best friend. I wouldn't go anywhere or do anything without him. And there's nothing that I wouldn't share or do with him. You know, it's not like I'd confide in my best girlfriend, but I wouldn't tell my husband anything.
Yes.
You know, like, we don't have that relationship. You know, it's like, well, you know, either you being pig-headed and stubborn and need a kick in the ass, or, you know, I love you and I think the sun shines out of your butt. You know, there's a little bit of both. So I think it's possible to find, but like you say, it's time consuming. You need to do the work on yourself, because otherwise, as Oprah so obviously says, the same lesson will show up in a different set of pants until you get it. And I think even Gabby Bernstein says that every shitty relationship is a spiritual assignment. You know, and that you have to work out that this is your soul's opportunity to grow and to learn more about yourself in your human form. What is it that you need to know in order to fulfill your purpose? So I had to traverse that to find my purpose, and now I have. And
that's it.
You know, I'm happy.
That's it. And this is what I'm really, really loving. Thank you so much, Teena, sharing that, because what I'm hearing is, like, you went from this, you've gone through the process, you've come with this, and you're so far ahead, but it's giving others hope. You can do it, and it takes time, and there's always going to be more to learn. I know, even though I'm well through my trauma and my life, it'll always be part of me, but now I'm excited to find out who am I even more.
Oh yeah.
You know, who can I support even more? So like you, so when we connected, that's what we'll connect on, that beautiful intuition, because we're both at that level in a way, from different. So again, anyone who's listening, we have completely different stories. But like Brené Brown says, but there's empathy because of the understanding. There was this mutual, well, that's, you know, mutual, whoa, something there. Yeah. So I've never been a mother and I've never been divorced. So I don't have that. Yet I was going, yes, I could hear what you were saying and going, yes. The only thing I'd like to say about being selfish, because again, we're taught not to be selfish. And I did a blog a while ago about how important it is to be selfish, because they're now saying,
absolutely.
actually, it is important.
Yeah, true. So true. And
you know,
for me, self-care is huge. It's so huge. And when I don't, I get pissed off and angry and frustrated, and I'm nobody's friend.
That's right. And this is what we don't realize, that even if we think we're not being frustrated and putting it out there, there is a niggle. People will feel that subtle energy of, oh, mum's a bit niggly today, or mum's not quite exactly right. And you'll be going, no, no, no. Well, I'll be doing that. No, I'm not. Well, actually, you are. Exactly right. Exactly right. But again, until you hit your own as rock bottom, or like you said, your own moment, and it's yours alone.
Correct.
Or like you said, coming back to, like you said, that sliding door moment where you realize, well, do I keep going down that path, different situation, or do I have the courage to step onto the new path, the unknown? And I don't know, did you read years ago Scott Peck, who said the road less traveled? This was something from years and years ago, and I remember reading at the time. I remember now not getting it until a couple of years ago. I went, oh, the road less traveled means the one that I'm going on, that is unknown. I thought it was this, this one that was so different to everyone else. Well, it is, isn't it?
It is, because it's your own.
It's your own.
And no one else can do it like you can.
That's it.
And really, in the end, who cares? Just go and do it. Be brilliant. Be, the most amazing version of yourself, because in the end, nobody else cares.
That's
the only person that has to care is you.
Oh.
And if you're happy with it, then it's great.
Yeah. And because time has come up, that is such a beautiful way to end, because I knew intuition would guide me or us to this. I would like you just to say it one more time, that this last bit, just to reinforce to people as we come to an end. What would you say to people just based on that?
Take care of you first.
Yes, that's it.
That's it. You must put yourself as a priority, and even if it's only for 5 minutes, and treat your shower like a ritual, where it's washing away all your crap, you're putting on your favorite music, you're shaking your ass, and you're going, yes, I'm here for another day to share my magic with the world. Then you can go on with the rest of your day. But start to take care of yourself in those little increments of time.
Exactly. And those little moments. I love you, that shower. That's what I've been doing for a long time. And just, it's, and the two ways I see it is, and then we must finish, because is enjoy the warmth of the water on you, but also enjoy, like you said, visualizing it disappearing. So there's two aspects to this, isn't there?
Yeah, it's filling you up and washing away the dirt.
Yes, that's it. That's it. Beautiful. Oh my goodness, Teena, thank you so much. It's just, and I love that ending. So give me everyone who's watching, I'm going to be putting down how to contact Teena, but what's your best way? Just mention, exactly your own intuitive.
Just on social media. My business is called Dharmas & Co. So DHARMAS, N for Nelly, CO. And you can find me on Facebook or Instagram. Send me a DM and go from there.
Great. And what I'll do is I'll also put that in the description with her bio. Anything that is raised or comments you'd like to make, please do. And one of us will get back to you. So thank you for everyone for listening. And thank you, Teena. Oh my gosh, my heart feels full. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.